Liam had lost his son, Max. The farewell. The wake was one of the most painful moments he had ever faced. Max was just 11, so full of life, so curious. The kind of child who could brighten any room he stepped into. But now, that light was gone, and Liam's world felt impossibly dark. Even with death's finality, something inside him refused to fully accept that his son was truly gone. It gnawed at him, a strange, unsettling feeling that there was more to Max's passing than what was seen. Consumed by grief and an overwhelming sense of uncertainty, Liam made a choice that most would find shocking, maybe even unthinkable. Before the burial, he placed a tiny hidden camera inside Max's coffin. Perhaps it was his way of holding on to the last connection with his son, or maybe it was simply the desperate act of a father who couldn't bear to let go. Either way, the decision came from a place of pure love and heartbreak. That night, Liam sat alone in his dimly lit living room. The house silent. Too silent. Every corner was a reminder of Max's absence, a painful echo of what once was. His eyes remained fixed on the monitor connected to the hidden camera, but all he could see was darkness, an empty, lifeless image from inside the coffin. He stared for hours, hoping for something. Anything. But there was nothing. Only silence. A vast, oppressive void that mirrored the emptiness in his heart. Exhausted, he finally drifted into a restless sleep. The next morning, the weight of grief still filled the house. Liam forced himself to keep busy, distracting his mind with small tasks. For a brief moment, he had almost forgotten about the camera almost. But then he remembered. A sharp pang of dread, mixed with curiosity, pushed him toward the monitor. He turned it on, expecting to see the same lifeless image. Instead, his blood ran cold. Inside the stillness of the coffin, something moved. At first, it was barely noticeable, just the faintest shift, like a flicker of shadow passing across the screen. Liam leaned in, holding his breath. Then, the sound. Low. Faint. Unmistakable. Breathing. A slow, rhythmic pattern, like someone was still alive inside that coffin. No. No, this can't be real. Liam whispered, his voice trembling. His heart pounded violently as he stared at the screen, unable to look away. His mind screamed for logic. Maybe it was a glitch? Some kind of interference? A malfunction? But the sound was too clear. Too real. And then movement. Again. This time it was distinct. A hand twitching. Just slightly. Panic overtook him. Grabbing his phone, he called his sister, Emily, the only person who truly understood the depth of his pain. Emily, he said, his voice frantic. You need to come over. Now. It's about Max. Something is happening. I can't explain it, but you have to see this. Emily, though skeptical, could hear the desperation in her brother's voice. She tried to reason with him, urging him to think rationally, that grief could be clouding his judgment. But Liam's urgency was undeniable. Within minutes, she arrived at his home. He met her at the door, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear. Without a word, he led her to the monitor. Emily hesitated, staring at the screen. Nothing but darkness. Liam, she began gently, I know you're hurting, but... Before she could finish, there it was again. The breathing. That slow, rhythmic sound filled the room, sending chills down Emily's spine. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes darting between Liam and the screen. Then it happened. The movement. Subtle, but clear. A shift in the coffin's stillness. What is this? Emily stammered, barely above a whisper. She turned to Liam, her face frozen in terror. This isn't possible. He's gone, Liam. We were at the funeral. We saw him. I don't know. Liam's voice broke. But I can't just sit here and do nothing. Without hesitation, he grabbed his car keys. I'm going to the cemetery. Emily pleaded with him, urging him to stop and think before doing something reckless. But one look at her brother's face told her there was no changing his mind. With a heavy sigh, she relented, following him to the car. The drive to the cemetery was tense. Silent. Both lost in their thoughts. Liam gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Emily stared out the window, her mind racing. Could this be real? And if it was, what did it mean? The night was eerily still when they arrived. The full moon cast a pale glow over the gravestones, while a cold breeze whispered through the trees. Liam didn't wait. Grabbing a shovel from the trunk, he stormed toward Max's grave, his movements fueled by desperation. Emily hesitated but followed, her heart pounding. "Liam," she whispered, "are you sure about this? What if we're making a mistake?" Liam didn't answer. He just kept digging. The sound of the shovel cutting through the earth echoed through the cemetery. Emily stood by, arms wrapped tightly around herself, glancing nervously around as if expecting something. Then, after what felt like an eternity, his shovel struck wood. Both siblings froze. The wooden lid of Max's coffin lay beneath a thin layer of earth. Liam took a deep breath. His hands trembled as he reached down to open it. Emily clutched her scarf tightly, her breath visible in the cold night air. The world seemed to hold its breath with them as Liam, with every ounce of strength he had left, pried the lid open. The hinges groaned. The sound of wood creaking cut through the night. And then, the lid swung open. Both siblings froze. Their eyes locked on what lay inside. Max's body. Still. Pale. Serene. Exactly as they had seen him at the funeral. Nothing seemed out of place, and yet something was wrong. The air around them felt unnatural. Liam leaned in, his face mere inches from his son's lifeless form. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Max, I'm here, buddy. I'm here." Then it happened. Max's lips twitched. A faint, almost imperceptible movement that sent a jolt of electricity through Liam's body. Emily gasped, stumbling back. "Liam, did you see that?" He moved. Before Liam could respond, a breath escaped Max's lips. But it wasn't the soft exhale of a sleeping child. It was cold, hollow, mechanical. Then, Max's eyes opened. But they weren't his eyes. These were empty, lifeless, completely blank. "Dad." The voice came out as a whisper, but it wasn't Max's voice. It was deeper, layered, as if multiple voices were speaking at once. Liam stumbled backward. Emily screamed. "That's not Max," she cried, pointing at the coffin. "Liam, that's not your son." Liam couldn't move, his body frozen, his mind torn. This was his son, wasn't it? "Max," he whispered, voice shaking. "It's me. It's Dad. I'm here to help you." Max's head moved. Slowly, stiffly, unnaturally, like a puppet on invisible strings. "You shouldn't have come." The voice, ominous, final. The air grew heavier, colder. Emily clung to Liam's arm, her entire body trembling. "Liam, we need to leave. Now." But Liam, he couldn't look away. Because deep down, no matter how much he wanted to deny it, this wasn't Max. And whatever it was, it had been waiting for him.